Welcome to Miss of Time Emporium. I'm Joni, and today I'm going to be doing a VR to Marlena Teresa, her hashtag Tarot to the Extremes. So there are 7 prompts comparing various aspects of various decks. So the number 1 is Minimalist deck versus Maximalist deck. So my Minimalist deck is the Teeny Tiny Tarot by Holly Audley. It's a non-standard suit deck, but it's very, very simple. King of Eyeballs. 3 needles. Oh, excuse me, 4 needles. Page of Cups. Easy peasy. Minimalist. Strength. Right? That's my Minimalist. And then my Maximalist is my Tarot of the Holy Light, which is very much along the Hermetic Tarot kind of thing, where there's just layers and layers and layers of symbolism and color and astrology and numerology and just everything you can think of. So Minimalist, Maximalist. The next prompt is daytime versus nighttime. And my daytime deck is the Tarot de Carlotydes, because every image is just very cheerful and easy and bright and daytimey. My nighttime deck is the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot, because it's the Night Goddess Tarot and everything about it is nighttime. I have to say this deck is also a runner-up for my hardest to shuffle deck. This is really thick cardstock, that rose petal finish. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It makes the images really, really pop. But it's not an easy shuffle either. So that is my nighttime tarot. The next prompt is best shuffle versus worst shuffle. So this is my best shuffle. These old school tarot cards, they made them the right size. They made them out of the right stock. So they are just absolutely so easy to shuffle. Oops, that was a very poor example. Get the box out of the way. Easy peasy. Easy to hold. Any way you want to shuffle them. Super easy. So easiest shuffle versus worst shuffle. The good tarot. This is just, to me, the personification of the big blocky cards that are hard to hold in any direction. Thick stock. Glossy, so that it's that sticky kind of glossy. So even when you try to do a side shuffle, it's just big clumps of cards. So the good tarot, worst shuffle. The Swiss Tarot cards, best shuffle. The next prompt is confronting versus comforting. So for my confronting deck, I have the Tarot of the Orixas. And this is a confronting deck for me because I actually took a course of study with an Umbanda priestess, and I was consecrated in the School of Divine Magic. And I was feeling really good about it. I have ancestors from South America, so I didn't feel it was cultural appropriation. But I got to the point where I did feel it was cultural appropriation. So I feel very confronted by this deck because I love that I was certified in the School of Divine Magic with Rosi from Brazil. I learned so much, and I received so many tools, but it's also confronting because, I really have to look at my white privilege when I want to look and use this deck. So kind of the The other aspect in Comforting is my very, very elderly Druid Craft Tarot. This is from the original release. You'll be able to tell by my beat up old cards. These aren't pretty anymore. Look at that. Just, they're kind of tore up because they're like my best friend. As far as deck goes, they have traveled with me. I have also Irish ancestry, predominantly. That's what I am. So these are like family to me, and they're easy images. They remind me of my relatives, and it's very comforting to me to use this deck. And I don't mind that she's beat up, because I'm 64. Been there too. Okay, so the next prompt is everyday versus every so often. So for my everyday deck, I have the Field Tarot. Now this is a deck I bought. I thought I was getting the full-size Field Tarot, but I was not. I have ordered that deck, but I don't have it yet. So I ordered this deck off eBay, and it's one of those knockoff decks. But I'm finding that I love this little mini-sized deck for an everyday deck. This deck and these images are just so light and easy to use. I will be receiving my full-size deck because I don't think, I don't want to support the knockoffs and not support the original artist. So I'm buying the full-size deck, and then I'll do a walkthrough. But this is just such a light, easy to use. They have keywords here right on the card, so you don't even have to go in depth very far. So it's just an easy everyday deck. And then my every so often deck is my Art History Tarot for Past Lives. So this is a multifaceted deck, specifically made for past life readings. So that's a subject that's pretty complex. Again, it's numbered as, the majors and minors and that kind of thing, with magician, fool on the card. But there's also locations, timelines, everything, or a lot of things that you need for past life readings. So locations, timelines, what might have contributed to your demise, that kind of thing. So this is definitely a deep dive and every so often kind of deck. So the next prompt is overrated versus underrated. And this one is not going to go over well. But this video, I want to be honest, I don't buy decks that I consider overrated. And I consider the Lightseer Tarot overrated. I do not. Everyone has it. Everyone loves it. I do not. So I'll just lay that right there, and I'm sure I'm going to get some feedback on that one. But for my underrated deck, I think the Brady Tarot. Because this deck is beautiful. It's complicated. A lot of talent went into this deck. She did everything herself, from carving the linos to pulling the prints to hand coloring. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's not one of those decks that's easy to shuffle. It's very thick cardstock, but absolutely lovely. And the guidebook is just divine because she brings you into the world of these creatures. And there's, again, lots of symbolism. She didn't do anything casually. Whatever is appearing in these cards is there for a reason, and she shares that reason, the thought process and the intuitive process behind it. So I think this deck is very underrated. The Brady Tarot. Okay, so the last prompt is Lightwork versus Shadowwork. And I had to cheat a little bit on this one because, again, I have an old school deck. Look at her. She's warped and everything. She's my Lightwork. This is the Crystal Ally cards. And this is, I've had many, many years. And I had this deck as I was learning all of the crystal energies, and this crystals to me are the personification of light as far as energy work, the work that I do. And so these cards really took me along. Again, the guidebook for this deck is amazing. And all of these it's filled with light and energy, and it's just this is my light deck. This is my light work. And I have all of the crystals that go with this deck, so I can really sit with the energy of these cards and crystals and do that work. And then my Shadowwork deck is the Witchfolk Tarot. And I'll tell you why. Because this is the place that I go around this time of year when my witchy side really comes out, and I'm really feeling the deep folk tales. And this deck absolutely captures the feeling of this time of year as we go into the autumn of the year. And it also reminds me of stories that I love, magical stories, particularly my favorite series by, I have it right here, Catherine Arden, The Bear and the Nightingale, based on a lot of Russian fairy tales and stuff. This series of books, it's a trilogy, has the same energy, I think, as this deck. So, and these cards are all on a dark background, and the symbolism and everything. I love this deck for that. It takes me into those dark magical places. So that's it. We have Minimalist, Maximalist. We have Daytime, Nighttime. We have, where'd my best shuffle go? My best shuffle versus the Good Tarot Worst Shuffle. The Comforting, my old Celtic cards, the Druid Craft Tarot versus Confronting, which are the Orixas cards. The Everyday Field Tarot versus Every So Often, the Art History for Past Lives. The Overrated deck, which will not be mentioned again, versus Underrated Brady Tarot. And then the Lightwork Crystal Ally cards versus Shadowwork, the Witchfolk Tarot. So thank you to Marlena for this Tarot to the Extreme. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.